Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, Kesubos Lamed Dalet. We begin 5 lines from the top of the Amud. We were right in the middle of a sugya. We had a Mishnah in our parak where we learned that, if you are chayiv, malchus, you will pay knas as well if these two obligations should converge. This seemed to be the pshat in our Mishnah, which was Reish Lakish's approach, and he says, look, we're following the unique shita of Rabbi Meir, who holds, yes, these two things can come together. A person can face two punishments, malchus and mamain. But when it comes to misa, that sort of takes the cake. Kamli b'derabi minei. Once he faces misa, he faces death, that sort of includes everything else. There is no monetary obligations that come along with that. Oh, if that's the case, then what about the halacha that we learned elsewhere? There was this fellow who stole an animal, and he did tevicha as well, which means he did a shchita on that very animal. The halacha is he must pay back not just the value of the animal, but 4 or 5 times as much. Dalid vehei, depending on what type of animal it is. Is shoyer an ox? He must pay back 4 times as much. If it's just a sheep, 5 times as much. Now the Brisa tells us that even if this fellow stole the animal and then did the shchita on Shabbos, which is a malacha, or did the shchita for the sake of avodah zarah, which is something which brings about the death penalty, or he does it on a shor haniskel, a shor which was condemned to death. It was a violent shor who gored repetitively, in which case he was deemed a shor haniskel, slated for skilas, slated for death, in which case the owner has nothing from it. He can't have any anah from it. Nevertheless, in all these cases, whether it's Shabbos, avodah zarah, or shor haniskel, if the Ganav stole and shechted that animal, he must pay 4 or 5 times as much. Dalad v'hei is applicable in this case. That is Shitas Rabbi Meir. Chacham disagree. They say no. In all these cases, he's pater from Dalad v'hei. The Gemara explained that although, even according to Rabbi Meir, when there's misa, there is nothing else that comes along with it. In this case, there's misa, malacha on Shabbos, avodah zarah. Still, he's chayiv, and the question was why, and the answer was, we're speaking b'toiveach al yidei acher. What happened was, he asked somebody to do it for him, a shliach. So Reuven the Ganav asked Shimon to do the shchita for him. He decided to do it on Shabbos, or it was for avodah zarah. Even if Reuven asked him to do it on Shabbos or for avodah zarah, it doesn't matter. Reuven does not get misa. So since Reuven does not get misa, the monetary obligation kicks in. He must pay dalad v'hei on account of the shchita done to the shor that he stole. So that will explain why Reuven is chayiv, even though it was a shchita on Shabbos, even though it was a shchita avodah zarah. So why do the Chachamim disagree? Why is there no dalad v'hei according to Chachamim? The answer is they're following shitas Reb Shimon, a unique shita. He holds that. What is shchita? Shchita is meant to generate heter on the basar. It's meant to make the basar permissible. But a shchita that does not accomplish that goal, that objective is not attained. It's a shchita she'ena ru'uya. It's not called a shchita. Shchita on Shabbos is not ru'uya. Shchita avodah zarah is not ru'uya. Shchita of shor haniskel is not ru'uya. So the Gemara asked on that. I understand. Shchita avodah zarah, of course it's not ru'uya. The basar is now asr ba'achila. A shchita of a shor haniskel, there as well. The basar is asr ba'achila. And even b'hana. Right? So since the avodah zarah and the shor haniskel asr b'hana, of course the shchita hasn't really accomplished much. We understand why it's a shchita she'ena ru'uya. But what about shchita on Shabbos? Sure, it's a malacha, but it's still mutar ba'achila. Answer is, and here comes the Gemara, 5 lines from the top of the Amud. Savar Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. We are following this unique shita, the Sanya, as we will find in the following brisa, that he holds that any type of thing created, fashioned, cooked, shechted on Shabbos, if it's done by way of malacha, it is absolutely asur ba'achila. That explains why shechet on Shabbos is not chayiv in Dalad Vehei, because it's a shechita she'ena ru'uya. It hasn't really accomplished basar heter. The sanya mavashal b'Shabbos. If one cooks on Shabbos, if it was b'shoigeg accidentally, yoichal, and even the fellow who cooked the food can actually eat it. B'mezid lo yoichal. If he did it purposely, you can't eat it. It's a knas. We penalize him. Don't enjoy the fruit of your malacha. Divid Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi takes a lenient approach. Rabbi Yehuda takes it a step higher. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shoigeg yoichal l'motzei Shabbos. If he did it b'shoigeg, don't eat it today. Wait till motzei Shabbos. B'mezid lo yoichal oilamis. But if he did it purposely, he can't eat it forever. It's a knas, and it seems from the Mefarshim that even others can't eat it that Shabbos because they can't have hanoah from a mass Shabbos. They can't enjoy the malacha that was done on Shabbos. They have to wait until Motzei Shabbos, and then they could eat it. But that's the other people. He himself, b'mezid lo yechal lamis, he shouldn't be eating it ever. Oh, here comes the third shita. That's what we're looking for. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler Omer. B'shoigeg ye'ochel l'motzei Shabbos. If he did it b'shoigeg, then the item that was cooked can be eaten after Shabbos. La'achirim v'loi loi. Others can have it, but not him. B'mezid, if it was done purposely, lo ye'ochel. Rashi says we put the nekuda as a tzeirit. Lo ye'ochel oilamis. The item can never be consumed. Loi loi, not by the perpetrator himself, v'loi la'achirim, nor to others. You can sell it to a guy, you can have a no, but you can't actually eat it. My time with Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. Why? As Rabbi Chia taught at the entranceway of the house of the Nasi. The pasuk says, "Shmartem es Shabbos." Safeguard the Shabbos ki kodesh lachem, because it's holy for you. Shabbos is connected to kodesh, to hegdish, to something which was dedicated to the Beis Hamikdash. Ma kodesh osur ba'achila, just as kodesh may not be eaten. Av masa Shabbos, asurim ba'achila. Likewise, something which was created, fashioned, cooked on Shabbos may not be consumed. That is the makar of Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, and that answers our question. If one steals an animal and shechts it on Shabbos, according to Chachamim, there's no dalad v'hed because it's a shechita she'ena ru'ya. We connect Masa Shabbos to kachim. So it's asur b'achila. What about bahano? Can you have benefit from it? Yes. But why? Let's connect it to kachim completely. Just as kodesh is completely asur, it's off limits. You may not benefit from kachim. Af masa Shabbos asur bahano. So ma kodesh asur bahano, af masa Shabbos asur bahano. Just as kodesh is asur bahano, likewise Shabbos as well. How could you sell it? Talmud Loimar, the pasuk adds the word lochem, ki kodesh lochem, shalochem yehei. In some fashion it belongs to you, which means you can at least enjoy the benefits of this item. Perhaps this restriction applies even if the melacha was done b'shoigig. Talmud Loimar, the pasuk continues with the words mechalaleo moisumas. If one desecrates the Shabbos, he faces death penalty. We learn from here that the halacha only applies b'mezid. Amarti lacha. This applies only b'mezid, v'lo b'shoigig, not if it was done accidentally. And that is Shitas Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. That explains the halacha why tavach u'macha b'Shabbos is pater. The item is asur ba'achila, and therefore it's not a shechita which accomplishes much. It's not halachically regarded as a proper shechita, in which case it doesn't generate the chiyuv of paying 4 or 5 times as much. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Kessler tells us that the Maaseh Shabbos is asur ba'achila. Is that min haTorah or midrabanan? Pligibor Rav Acha v'Ravina. It's a machlekes amiroim. Chad amar Maaseh Shabbos d'oraisa. One of these two amiroim maintain that according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, something cooked on Shabbos is also min haTorah, based on the pasuk that we just had. And that explains the halacha, the Mishnah there. Why tavach u'macha b'Shabbos? Why tavach b'Shabbos is pater from knas of dalad v'hei? Is because the basar is asur ba'achila min haTorah. V'chad amar d'Rabbanan. But the other amiroim maintains that even according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, there's no isur min haTorah. Even if something was cooked or shechted on Shabbos, it's also midrabanan. So manda amar da'iraisa. The shita that maintains that it's an issa da'iraisa. K'da'amaran based on the the pasuk that we just mentioned. Man da Amar de Rabbanan. But the other shita who maintains that it's only a Issa de Rabbanan, what happened to the pasuk that we just had? How does he learn the pasuk? Amakra. Let's take a closer look at the pasuk. Pasuk says Kodesh He. Right? Safeguard the Shabbos, because Shabbos is Kodesh He. The added word He is coming to tell you He Kodesh. Shabbos is Kodesh. Ve'en Maaseh Kodesh, as opposed to something created on fashion and formed on Shabbos. It's not Kodesh and it's not Asr B'Achil. Now comes a kasha. Ulamad de Omar de Rabbanan. So if you say the Isser is only the Rabbanan, it's not based on a pasuk. My time, my de Rabbanan de Patri. How do we explain the Shittas Rabbanan who argue on Rameir? They hold that if a Ganav does the Shchita on Shabbos, he is pater from Knas of Dalad Vehei. We had thought that's because the Basar is Asr Ba'achila and the Shchita hasn't accomplished much. So he's pater from Dalad Vehei Minat Torah. It's an Isser Minat Torah, so he's pater Minat Torah. But if it's only Isser de Rabbanan but Minat Torah, something shechted on Shabbos is mutter. So technically it's a shchita which is ru'uya, a shchita which had achieved its goal, had created permissible basar. So why wouldn't he pay the knas of dalad v'hei on account of that tvicha? You're right, 100% right. Kika patri rabbanan asha'ara. You're right, when the rabbanan say the ganav is pater on account of his tvicha, we had 3 cases in the brisa. We had Shabbos, Avodah Zarah, and Shar HaNiskel. They were referring to Avodah Zarah and Shar HaNiskel. But Tvicha on Shabbos certainly would trigger the Chiv of Dalad V'Hei. Now let's go back to Rabbi Meir, who maintains that in all 3 cases, Shchita on Shabbos, Shchita Avodah Zarah, Shchita of Shar HaNiskel, the Ganav will be Chayiv Dalad V'Hei on account of that Shchita. Now let's remember, the din of Teveach is only when it follows a Geneva, meaning you steal Reuven's cow and you shecht it, fine. Since you stole and shechted the other fellow's cow, so it sort of exasperates the offense and makes him liable to 4 or 5 repayments. But suppose the animal no longer belongs to its former owner. He lost all interest in it. He has no benefit from it, in which case he's not really the owner anymore. So if you can find that at the point of tvicha, it's no longer relating to its owner, then I haven't really shechted the other fellow's cow. There's no chiv of dalad v'hei. Here comes a kash. If this ganav shechts in a matter where he's serving the avodah zarah, which makes the animal entirely asur, given the shachat beipurta, as soon as he starts the shchita, even a bit, even the half a simon, half of the kana or the veshet, itzerle. The animal becomes asur. He has worshipped avodah zarah. And what happens when something becomes asur? You lose all ownership. What's the point of ownership? What defines possession? You have access, you have use, you have benefit. If it's something is asur b'hana, any benefit from this item is forbidden, then you no longer have any access to it. Ownership is pretty much null and void. So once the ganav starts the shchita of avodah zarah, it becomes asur to its former owner. Either kikatavach, when he continues the shchita to the end of the shchita, lav demari katavach. He's no longer doing shchita on its owner's cow. The owner no longer has anything from it. He no longer relates to it financially. So why is the ganav at all chayiv? On account of that masa of shchita, which was done on a cow which was no longer technically belonging to that fellow. Amar Rava was speaking about a special case. Typically, you're right. But here, we're speaking ba'omer that the ganav declares, B'gemar zvicha hu oivda. He says, look, I'm worshipping the avodah zarah at the very last moment of the shchita. Until we get to the end, until we properly perform the shchita, it's not considered avodah zarah. I'm not really interested in doing it, worshipping until then. So now, as soon as he finishes the shchita, he's doing tvicha on the owner's cow, and he's doing avodah zarah at the very same moment, and therefore he's chayiv for dalad v'hei. The same kash on the Shar HaNiskel. This violent Shar was a habitual gorer. Bezdin made a gemar din, issued a verdict, condemned him to misa. Here again, lavdi deyu. Somebody steals a Shar HaNiskel and does tvicha, he's doing shchita on an ownerless cow. It's like hefker. Since it's been condemned lemisa, leskila, it no longer is mutar bahanoah. Its former owner sort of lost all rights to his animal. So when the other fellow does shchita, he's doing it on an ownerless animal. Lavdideyu de katavach. He's not doing tzvich on the owner's animal. It's hefker, so to speak. It's asur bahanoah. Amar Rabba. Once again, Rabba comes and says, look, this is a Girsa Amar Rabba. He says, look, we're speaking about a very unique case. There are several factors here that when they sort of combine together, you can work out the case. Here we go. We're speaking about a very special case. The Ganav did not steal it from its owner's possession. There was an owner and there was a shomer. Reuven owned the cow, but then gave it over to Shimon, the shomer, to keep an eye over it. And then Levi stole it from Shimon. Reuven handed his animal to the shomer. While in possession of Shimon, he committed those violent acts. He gored. And while he was still in the possession of the shomer, which is Shimon, Bezdin issued the Gmar Din. This shar goes lemisa. Now, at this point, Shimon still has some financial interest in this shor. You know why? Although he can't really benefit from it. But let's say, suppose he chooses to return the shor to Reuven in its current state. The halacha is that he's potter. Look, he gave me a shor. Here it is. True, I should have watched it a bit better. I'm responsible for all that he did. But the fact is, you gave me the animal. Here it is. So at that point, Shimon has some sort of financial interest in this animal. He wants to return it to Reuven and become exempt from his chiyuv. At this point, Levi stole it. Levi stole it from Shimon's home and did the tvicha. Now, for Rameir says that Levi is chayiv dalad v'hei on account of that tvicha. So look at Rabbi Yaakov. On the one hand, Rameir will follow Shittas Rabbi Yaakov. We'll see in a moment. V'sav look at Rabbi Shimon, and likewise, he will hold like Rabbi Shimon. So when all these pieces come together, the halacha will work. Explains the Gemara. Sabalak Rabbi Yaakov. We're going to go with Rabbi Yaakov. The Amar Af Misha Nigmar Dinoi. Even if the shar was condemned, Lemisa, Yechziru Shemer Labalav Muchsar. Should the Shemer choose to return this very animal in his current state on the way to Misa, but he takes it and gives it back to Reuven, he chapped the right. Muchsar. He was Yaitze his chiyuv. Reuven has no claim on Shimon. Why don't you give me back an animal which is worthless? Too bad. You gave me an animal, I returned the animal. So Shimon has some sort of financial gain. He has some benefit from holding on to this animal. But then Levi stole it. V'savel Reb Shimon. And we're following Reb Shimon as well. What did Reb Shimon say? The Amar Davar HaGoyrein Lemomin. If something brings about some financial gain. So even though the item itself is worthless, such as this Sher HaNiskel, worthless as can be, but it brings about financial gain. In a roundabout way, Shimon has benefit from this animal. Should he return the animal to Reuven, he's potter. Should he not be able to return the animal, for whatever reason, because it was stolen from him, then that triggers a chiyuv between Shimon to Reuven. So the fact that I'm holding on to the animal makes me potter. Mama and dummy, we treat it as though it has value. So now when Levi stole that animal from Shimon, look, you stole my animal. You made me lose money. You took my animal, you shechted it. So we treat it as though it still belongs to Shimon, even though it's asur b'hanoah, but Shimon has some financial interest in this animal. So now Levi is a full-fledged ganav, and tvicha, which he did on that animal, is considered a tvicha on an owner's animal, which triggers the din of the knas of dalad v'hei. Okay, let's just quickly recap the Amar Gemara until here, and then we'll go on to the next approach in this halacha. We had a brisa. One stole an animal, and then was toiveach, which means he was sheichet the animal. That exasperates the geneva. That quadruples his chiyuv. He goes up to 4 times, 5 times as much, which he must repay to the owner. What if he did it on Shabbos? He did it for Avodah Zarah, or he did it on a Shar Niskel. According to Reb Meir, he will pay the Dalad V'hei. According to Chachamim, he's pater from Dalad V'Hei. Why? So according to Reb Meir, even though there's a Chiv Misa on Shabbos, or Lavei Dezara, a Chiv Misa, we're speaking that he did it Aydei Achar through a Shliach, in which case he never did the Isser, so he has to pay. Now we had another question regarding the Lavei Dezara and the Shar Niskel. They're worthless. We do more just provided the answer for that. We worked out a method where the Shechita took place while it was still worth something. Chachamim maintain that by Lavei Dezara and Shar Niskel is pater because the Shechita is ein ru'iyah. It's not accomplishing, heter on the basar, which is the objective of Shechita. Regarding Shabbos, that turns out to be an interesting machlekes. Initially, the Gemara says that according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Hasamlar, the Maaseh Shabbos, the Melechas Shabbos is Asr. That would explain the Chachamim patering, exempting this fellow from Dalad V'Hei because a Shechita on Shabbos does not accomplish heter on the basar. It's Asr b'achila. But there's another Shita which learned Rabbi Yehuda Hasamlar differently. That's only the Rabbanim of B'nai Torah. The animal which was shechted on Shabbos remains mutter, in which case the Gemara says that according to Chachamim, the Shechita on Shabbos would indeed generate the Chiv of Dalad V'Hei, would be considered a proper Tvicha, which obligates the Ganav in Dalad V'Hei. Continues the Gemara, Rabba Amar. Let's go back to the original question. We had a Brisa. This fellow stole an animal and was Teveach on Shabbos, Lavei Dezara. He's getting Misa for doing these things. How could you obligate a payment of Dalad V'Hei? Kamli b'derabimine. You get the more severe punishment, which sort of absolves you of the imamai. So the Gemara says, well, we're speaking that he asked somebody to do it for him, right? Rabba Amar no. Let's go back to the simple case. We're speaking that the Ganav did the Shechita on his own. He didn't ask anybody to do it for him. So why is he chayiv to pay? He's getting Misa for doing a Malach on Shabbos. He's getting Misa for doing Lavei Dezara. And the truth is, Reb Meir loikim mishalem islay. Even Reb Meir, who says that when a Chiv Malkus and a Chiv Mammon converge, he gets double punishment. But Mesa mishalem leslie. If it's Misa that he's facing, of course that absolves him of anything else. Kamle b'derabimine. So why is he chayiv to pay in this case? V'shani hani. And these cases are different. Cases of a ganav doing a shechita on a stolen animal is very different. Remember, the fact that he's paying 4 or 5 times as much, that's not your basic monetary obligation. That's a knas. That's a penalty applied by the Torah. It's a chiddush. It's something out of the ordinary that the Torah introduced with this knas. And therefore, we can very well understand that payment of knas does not have to conform to standard guidelines. And therefore, even if this fellow is going to be put to death on account of the Malach on Shabbos, on account of the Lavei Dezara that he's doing through the Shechita, still Mashalmi has to pay up. That's a chiddush of Rabbah. We had a kasha. How does he get Misa and Tashlumin? The answer is, it's not Tashlumin, it's Knas. Misa can go together with Knas. 2 different realms, so to speak. One is a more direct einish, one is a Knas, an entirely different type of obligation. And therefore, it can come together. And as the Rabbi Latami, and in fact, Rabbi is very consistent with what he himself told us elsewhere. This chiddush that a chiv knas is compatible with a chiv misa. The Amar Rabba tells us, Hayagni Gonavlai. This fellow had in his possession a stolen goat, which he stole, during the weekday, on a Wednesday. And he did the shechita on Shabbos itself, chayiv. He has to pay 5 times as much. Why? Because for the shechita, even though it took place on Shabbos, that is chayiv, as we just explained, because knas is compatible with misa. And he's chayiv for the actual, item itself too, what we call the keren, the principle, because that resulted from the the Maaseh Geneva which took place during the week. So even though that's not knas, that's just basic obligation. You took something, you have to repay it. Right? You assume responsibility for the item that you stole. That chiyuv that comes to a ganav, that happened during the weekdays. So that's certainly an established chiyuv. There's no conflict there. So he's chayiv for that basic obligation. And coming into Shabbos, he's already chayiv sort of the keren, the principle. Now, when he does tvicha on Shabbos itself, it adds. It supplements itself over the chiyuv keren and rises to 4 to 5 times as much. Because the extra payments on account of the tvicha, again, that's knas. And knas is compatible with misa. So even if that was triggered by a melacha, that certainly would arrive. Because keep in mind that in this case, the gneva took place on Wednesday. So the chiyuv on account of the actual masa gneva took place way before Shabbos. So the ikar chiyuv took place during the weekday. On Shabbos, he got another couple of chiyuvim because of the knas due to the tvicha on Shabbos. But if the entire episode took place on Shabbos, from beginning to end, he stole and did the shchita on Shabbos. In this case, of course, he's pater. Sure, the tvicha can theoretically generate a chiyuv knas even on Shabbos, but we never got to that point. First, you need a basic chiyuv of gneva, and then you could add, the 4 and 5 on top of that, or the 3 or 4 on top of that. And here, the gneva took place on Shabbos, and chiyuv on account of gneva, the basic chiyuv to repay what you stole, the basic chiyuv to assume responsibility for an item that one steals, that's not knas, that's mammon, that's basic, financial chiyuv. And if that takes place on Shabbos, and takes place synonymous with a masa malacha, such as we learned it a couple of days ago, he drags the item out of the other owner's backyard into the street. So he actually stole by transferring territories, by transferring reshuyos. At the same moment that he did haitzah, right? He carried it into the street. So at that moment, since the chiyuv geneva occurs together with a chiyuv misa due to the melacha on Shabbos, he's potter from geneva. So even if he actually shechts it on Shabbos, he's entirely potter. Potter shim ein geneva, because if you can't get to first base, you don't have a single chiyuv to repay on account of the geneva, because again the geneva took place together with a masa malacha. Kamli b'derabba he's potter from the chiyuv moment. So you can't get to second or third base. Ein tvicha ve'ein mechira. You can't add more chiyuvim. The Torah says you pay 4 or 5. The Torah doesn't say you pay 3 or 4. Never got to number 1. You can't get past that. So this idea of Rava is based on the previously mentioned concept that, sure, when it comes to the basic chiyuvi mammon, that's incompatible with misa. If there's misa, there's no mammon. But if there's a knas to work with, that can kick in even if it occurs simultaneous with a chiyuv misa. V'amar Rava, here comes another example of the same halacha. This fellow had a stolen goat, which he stole, during the day. Then, he tunneled into a homeowner's home, under the wall, and the pasuk says a fellow who's tunneling into a person's house is sort of availing himself to death. The owner could just kill him on the spot because he's being threatened by the thief, right? So the Gemara here treats it as though the ganav who is bab machteros, who's now tunneling into a home, is actually chayav misa. The fact that the Torah allows the homeowner to kill him is considered as though the ganav sneaking his way into the home is chayav misa. So again, we're speaking that he had a goat stolen beforehand, and as he's tunneling into this guy's house, he decides right then and there, no better time, and to do the shchita on the gdi. Okay, or maybe a more simple case: he was in the person's, property, stole a gdi, and then tunneled his way out with the gdi. Okay, decided to do the shchita underground. chayiv. He's chayiv dalad v'hei. You know why? It's based on the same idea as we mentioned earlier with the weekday and Shabbos. Shekvar is chayiv b'gneva koydem sheyavoy l'dei iser machteres. Because his obligation, his basic obligation based on the fact that he stole, happened before he came into the machteres. Right? So he's chayiv a single repayment before he starts tunneling. In the tunnel, he's chayiv misa, true, but the shchita done there creates the additional chiyuvim of dalad v'hei, which are knas, and can happen in tandem with Isser chiyuv misa. But let's say he did the entire thing inside the tunnel. Gana v'tavach b'machteres. He stole and did the shchita inside the tunnel, where he's chayiv misa potter. He's totally potter, based on the same idea as we mentioned earlier, because there's no starting point. Shemein geneva, because if there's no chiyuv geneva, because it occurred during the chiyuv misa, ain't tvicha and mechira. There's no chiyuv on account of tvicha of shchita, or on account of mechira. It's another form of dalad v'hei. If he actually sells the animal, it's chayiv dalad v'hei. So in any case, if there's no starting point, there's no geneva, there's nothing else. Now, Rabbi mentioned two similar cases. Is there any chiddush in each one over the other one? Why do you have to mention two variations of the same concept? Tzricha both are needed, the Yeshmin and Shabbos. If only the case of Shabbos, I would say Mishum de Yisura Yisra Olam. You know why? The Chiv Misa, on account of a Malacha on Shabbos, exempts him from Mammon. That's because the Misa of Shabbos is an ongoing Chiv. A person was Machal Shabbos today, the Bezdin can kill him without any time limitations. It doesn't expire. Anytime Edom get up and testify against him in Bezdin, he'll be put to death. So it's not an Issa which expires. So maybe that's more severe, and that has the ability to exempt him from mumming that occurs at the same time. But tunneling, that's not something that has duration. The Issa show, it's only sort of a limited time type of chiyuv. While he's in the tunnel, you can kill him, but once he's out of the tunnel, it expires. Perhaps it doesn't have the same power. It can't really exempt from chiyuv mammon. That's why we mentioned this case as well. Yes, it does. V'yashmin and machteres. If we only speak about machteres, I would say, yeah, machteres, that's a powerful chiyuv mishum de machtartoi, because his act of tunneling, zohi asra asay, is tantamount to having been warned against doing this, which basically means you don't have to warn him ahead of time. If the homeowner notices his fellow tunneling in, boom, he doesn't have to warn him. So it's a very severe and strict and powerful type of chiyuv misa. So maybe it has the ability to override the mammon, aval Shabbos, the boya asra. But when it comes to Isra Shabbos, Shabbos is no different than any other chiyuv in the Torah. You have to warn him before the fact. So maybe it has that sort of deficiency and can't really overshadow the chiyuv mammon. Emerloy maybe it doesn't have that ability. Tzricha, that's why he mentions both cases. Chiyuv misa is chiyuv misa is chiyuv misa. Amar Papa, here comes almost a third variation of this concept. So we had the shchita on Shabbos, shchita in the machteres. Here comes a third type of case. Hoisa para gnuvaloi. So this fellow was in possession of a para that he stole. So he stole the cow, v'tavcha b'Shabbos, and he actually did the tvicha on Shabbos chayiv. He must pay dalad v'hei. Why? The same idea. Shekvar nischayiv b'gneifa, koydem sheyavoy l'isur Shabbos, because he was already chayiv on account of the actual act of stealing way before he did the isur Shabbos. So he's chayiv to repay once on account of the gneiva. Then comes Shabbos. He does a tvicha on Shabbos. Dalad v'hei, the additional repayments are kanas, and that could apply even when done in tandem with the isra malacha, with the isra mis. But ha'isa para she'ulaloi v'tavcha b'Shabbos. Let's say he had a para which was she'ulaloi, right? Big difference. It wasn't stolen. It was loaned to him. So he loaned a para. He's not a ganav, perfectly legal. So he was in possession of this para, legitimate possession of this para. It was loaned to him. V'tavcha b'Shabbos. Come Shabbos, he sees he's short of meat, does a shchita on the other fellow's para. At the point of shchita, he's actually stealing. It just turned from a loaned animal to a stolen animal. Boom, at that split second. So he's potter. He's completely potter. Why? Because the stealing, the gneva was initiated on Shabbos, together with a chiyuv misa, right? Because It was the tvicha, it was the shchita that created the geneva. So it never got off the ground because the chiyuv misa overshadows any possible chiyuv moment. So it's pretty much the same idea as the other halachas, just another variation. Amalei Rav Acha, Brei Rav, Rav Ashi, have a kasha. What's the point of this most recent halacha of Rav Papa? Rav Papa para asla shmina? Was he just trying to tell us something about a para? Meaning, why would this be any different than the previous cases mentioned by Rabbah? They're all based on the same underlying principles. What's the point of mentioning the para halacha? Amalei, he tells them there is some sort of additional twist here. Rav Papa shu'ula also lashmina. He was informing us something very unique, something very profound. This fellow had borrowed the parrot. It was already in his possession. When a fellow borrows, he assumes full responsibility for anything that might happen with this item, even ba'onis, even accidentally. Right? So maybe I would say, there would be room to speculate that Hoyel va'amar Rav Papa, since Rav Papa himself told us, Mishas Meshicha, at the moment where the borrower leads the animal into his, towards him, into his property, Mishas Meshicha u'dechayiv le'birum zeneseh, at that moment, he has to look after the mezonos, he has to feed, he has to look after the well-being of the animal. His chayav to feed the animal from that moment. It's considered sort of under his care and his possession. So perhaps here as well, when it comes to obligations, perhaps I would say that the chiyuv of oinus, remember the chiyuv of oinus means that if a shoyel who took responsibility, absolute responsibility for this animal or for this item, and this item goes missing, goes lost, gets broken, stolen, anything, even an oinus, something totally beyond his control, the shomer, the shoyel, right, the borrower, is responsible. He has to repay. So perhaps that chiyuv really got triggered from that first moment when he took possession of the animal. Meaning, if something occurs later on, some oinus comes and damages this animal, he has to pay. But is it a sort of a chiyuv triggered now going forward, or is it sort of retroactive? Perhaps I would say it's retroactive. I took the animal into my possession on Sunday. I'm using it. Until Tuesday, Wednesday, it dies, ba'oinus. I have to pay. Why am I paying? Perhaps, we could say you're paying not because of what happened now, but rather because of what happened on Sunday. What happened on Sunday? You took it into your possession. You spread your wings over it. You committed to look after it. You took full responsibility on Sunday. So perhaps the chiyuv is really retroactive, which basically means already from Sunday it was totally in my possession. In which case, in our story, when he borrowed it during the weekdays, but did the tvicha on Shabbos, since the animal was now damaged, and the shoyel has to pay, maybe this chiyuv to pay was triggered really on Sunday, retroactively from Sunday. And since Sunday is the weekday, so the chiyuv is not unrelated to Shabbos, unrelated to Malacha, unrelated to Misa. The basic chiyuv to repay the actual animal is triggered from Sunday. And therefore, he should pay Daled V'Hei, because the extra payment on account of the Tvicha on Shabbos, that's legal because it's a Knas. And Knas is compatible with Misa. So perhaps I would say so, Kamashmon, the Chiddush of Papa is no. We don't say that. If something occurs on Shabbos, if the animal dies on Shabbos, or the fellow stole and did the Shechita on Shabbos, whatever the circumstance, it doesn't matter what happened. If the oinus occurs on Shabbos, the Chiva arrives right now. And since now it's Shabbos, and the Masa Gneva is in tandem with the Malacha, which creates Misa, well, Misa overshadows any Chiyuv. Kam lib the Rabbim, so he's Potter. Amar Rava. Here comes another interesting case. Hiniach len avian para she'ula. So their father passed away and left behind a loan, a borrowed cow. So unbeknown to them, so it was a borrowed cow, right? Mishtamshin bo kol yimei she'lasa. So, usage privileges carries over to their children. They can continue using it until, the end of the term. Mesa, suppose something happens with the animal. The animal dies. Ein chayavin ba'itza. They don't have to pay for this accident. Why? We never took responsibility. Our father did. We're not responsible. What about kisvurin sh'alaviyim? They're thinking it's their father's para. He never told them otherwise. And they did shchita on the animal, and they ate it, thinking that it's Yerusha from their father. It turns out that it's the other guy's para, who was just loaned to their father. Are they fully responsible? No. Somewhat, yeah, but not fully responsible. Mishalman may basar bazil. They have to pay, the price of meat, the low market price, but not full price. Let's say their father left over some, properties, which are there to secure his financial obligations. In this case, chayav l'shalom. Since father left over some properties, they have to use those properties, sell off the properties, and pay the value of this shur, of this para. Now we had two cases in the halacha. We had the animal died, so the Brisa says they're pater, or they did the shchita on the animal, and the Brisa there too says they don't have to pay full value. Now this last stipulation, if there is some properties left behind, then they are fully obligated. What's it going on? The case where the animal died, or the case where they did shchita today? Ikad masla reisha. Some applied it to the first case, where the animal died, so typically they're pater. Not our business. We didn't assume responsibility. But if there are properties to back up our father's obligations, we have to use those properties to repay. Vikad masla seifa. Others applied it to the next case. They did the shchita on the animal. They enjoyed it. Father should have, indicated to them prior to his death that this is a loaned animal. In this case, if father left behind property, they must use it to repay fully what they took. So two ways to learn this halach. Now, manda masla reisha, the one that applied this halach of the nechasim to the first case, which is where the animal just happened to die. Typically they're pater, because look, we're sons, we didn't accept upon ourselves any responsibility for this animal. But if the father left over nechasim, they have to use that to repay. Now, there's a chiddush here. Because the fact is, when did the animal die? When did the oinus, when did the accident happen? When did the mishap occur? After the father died. Right? So why would the father's nechasim need to be used to repay his obligation? There was no obligation during his lifetime. He borrowed a para, perfectly fine. He passed away. He's safe. Later on, after his passing, the para died. So the kids are not responsible. We didn't accept upon ourselves any responsibility. Father's not responsible. The event took place after his death. But if we learn that his nechasim will be used, will be applied to repay for the animal, that's a chiddush. And it's not going to be like Rav Papa. Rav Papa who just told us a minute ago that when a fellow borrows an animal and something occurs, the chiyuv is triggered right now, not retroactive to the time of taking, to when I accepted the animal. No, it's going forward from the time of oinus. This halakha seems to contradict Rav Papa. So man the masla reisha, the one that applied the halacha, that when the father left over nechasim, it's applied towards the chiyuv, even on the reisha where it just happened to die after his death. Kloshken and Seif, of course, it would apply to the next case, where they did the shchita, and he should have told them before his death. So now, when he has some nechasim left over, that must be applied in order to repay this obligation in full. Upligad Rav Papa. This is in dispute. This is inconsistent with Rav Papa, as we just explained, because the fact that we hold father or father's properties accountable, we apply it towards the Chiyuv to repay for the para that passed away after his death. That's not like Rav Papa. Because Rav Papa held the Chiyuv only occurs at the time of passing, at the time of Oin. It's not retroactive to the time of acceptance of the para. But according to the other version of events, the one that applied this halacha, which halacha? The halacha which says that the father left over property, it's applied towards the chiyuv, applied only in the last case of the seifa, where the children actually did the shechita due to father's negligence, due to the fact that he never told them otherwise. Okay, so that's specific to that case. Aval areisha, but not the first case, where they were using this para, and suddenly he died. The para died. In that case, why would anybody be responsible? Children not responsible. We didn't accept upon ourselves any responsibility for this para. And father's not responsible because the mishap occurred after his death. Find the Rav Papa. It's exactly like Rav Papa, who says that the chiv only happens from the moment of Einus onward, which was after his passing. Now let's go back to the beginning of the sukkah. Let's backtrack a few days. We have a Mishnah in our parak. Elo naro sheyesh lahem knas. If one interacts with a nara, forcefully, he has to pay a fine. We had a Mishnah Mesechas Makis, which says that he gets malchus. So we had several ways to reconcile. We had Ula, we had Rabbi Yehuda, we had Rish Lakish. So we're going to focus on Rabbi Yehuda and Rish Lakish right now. Rabbi Yehuda said, look, typically, if you get malchus, you don't get mammon. It's incompatible. You only get one punishment at a time. The Mishnah in Kesubos that he pays is speaking, there was no hasra. He wasn't warned that he's going to get malchus. So he's no malchus. There's no malchus. Let him pay. The Mishnah in Mesechas Makis is speaking, there was hasra. He was warned beforehand. You're going to get malchus. So in that case, he gets lashed and no mammon. So we're going with Shitas Rabbanon. There are no double punishments. If there's malchus and mammon conversion, malchus overshadows the mammon. Again, our Mishnah where he pays is speaking, there was no malchus, he wasn't warned. Mishnah in Mesechas Makis is speaking, he was warned, and therefore he gets malchus. We understand Rabbi Yehuda chose his approach in explaining the two Mishnahs, not like Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish adopted a different approach. At the end of yesterday's daf, Rish Lakish tells us, no, our Mishnah in Makis is speaking in accordance with Shitas Rabbi Meir, that says you can get malchus and mammon together, double punishment's okay, when it's malchus and mammon. And that's how he explained the sugya. Both are applied. And that's why by us you get penalized financially, even though you're getting malchus. Rabbi Yehuda didn't like that approach. Because he interpreted the Mishnah like the Rabbanon. Because unlike Rabbi Meir says you can get malchus and mammon, Rabbanon disagree. And he wanted to go with Shitas Rabbanon, the Rabbim. If you get malchus, you don't get mammon. So he learned differently. Our Mishnah, where you pay, is speaking there's no malchus because he wasn't warned. Ela Rish Lakish, my time Rabbi Yehuda. But why did Rish Lakish choose his approach? Establish the Mishnah like Rabbi Meir, which is a Das Yachid, individual opinion. Why didn't he go with Rabbi Yehuda, which is the consensus? Amalach. Rabbi Rish Lakish explains like this. You know why I didn't want to go with Rabbi Yehuda? Who said that if you get malchus, you're potter from mammon. But our Mishnah speaking, he wasn't warned, therefore he doesn't get malchus. Doesn't matter. If there's a potential for malchus, then he's potter from mammon. Even if in reality he wasn't warned, he's not going to get lashed. Doesn't matter. This act, this offense, carries within it a potential malchus that exempts you from mammon. Amalach, even the ilu ashrebe potter. Suppose he would have been warned, and he would have gotten malchus. Then of course he would not be paying, right? If so, it makes no difference. Kiloi ashrebe nami potter. Even if he wasn't actually warned, and he's not going to get the malchus. This is a malchus carrying offense. There's no chiv mammon. And in fact, Rabbi Yehuda and Rish Lakish will have this discussion here whether a potential malchus, an offense which carries a potential malchus, even if it's not actually realized in reality. The question is whether this carries mammon with it as well. Rabbi Yehuda says, there is mammon, there's no malchus, there is mammon. Rish Lakish says, there could be malchus, and therefore there is no mammon. Azla Tamayu is consistent with their shita elsewhere, where we find this discussion. The Chiyas Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, he said, Chayav misa shegigin. If a fellow committed an offense, which can potentially have him face a chiv misa, but he did it b'shogeg. There is no chiv misa practically. Or a chayav malki is shogeg. Okay, so he did something which generates malchus, but it was b'shogeg, so he's practically not going to get the malchus. V'davar acher, and that act came along with another offense, a monetary offense. So it's wrapped together, a chiv misa and a chiv mammon, or a chiv malchus and a chiv mammon. But the fact is, he's not going to have misa and malchus because it was b'shogeg. Does he have to pay or not? Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, of course he's chayav. Fact is, I'm only applying one punishment. For Rish Lakish Amar Potter, he doesn't have to pay. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Chayiv, he has to pay. The lo yasru pay. He wasn't warned. It was b'shogeg. There was no malchus. Of course he has to pay. Rish Lakish Amar Potter, no, he doesn't have to pay. Kivon di ilu asru pay Potter. Since theoretically, if they would have warned him and he would have gotten malchus, that would exempt him from mammon. Therefore, here as well, kilei asru pay nami Potter. Even if he wasn't actually warned, he's not going to get actual malchus. This is a malchus carrying offense, in which case he's Potter from mammon. So this is pretty much their machlekes in our sugya as well. Okay, let's quickly recap today's daf. We had a brayso. A guy stole and actually did shchita. He was tavach. Is he chayiv daled v'hi or not? Rameir says yes. Shacham say no. The Gemara explains, pertaining to Shabbos and Avodah Zarah, even though there was a chayiv misa involved, but he did it al yedei shliach. He's not chayiv misa, and therefore he's chayiv mammon. Or according to Rabbah, since the chiv of daled v'hei is a knas, that gets triggered even when there's a chiv misa. Unlike chiv mammon, which is incompatible with chiv misa. We had a question regarding Avodah Zarah. Isn't it asr b'hano? As soon as he starts the shechita, no longer belongs to its owner going forward. The answer is he made it tonight a condition. I'm only worshipping at the end of the shechita. Shar Niskal, condemned to death, it's worthless. No, he took it from the shomer's home, and it has some value for the shomer because he can use it to return it to the owner. Regarding chachamim, by Avodah Zarah, Shar Niskal is pater because they're valueless. They're asr b'achila, and the shechita is not creating heter achila, and therefore it's not considered a halachic shechita regarding dalad v'hei. Regarding a shechita on Shabbos, well, if you say animal shechta on Shabbos is asr min haTorah, well, that's also called shechita she'ena ru'uya, and therefore he's pater from dalad v'hei. But if you hold that it's mutar min haTorah, Chachamim would agree that in the case of Shabbos, yes, it's a halachic shechita and considered for dalad v'hei. Okay, turning to daf, we had a case where he did the gneva and the tvicha in the tunnel, or on Shabbos, or it was something borrowed to him, loaned to him, and he did the shechita on Shabbos. So here again, he's doing the gneva with the tvicha on Shabbos itself, because the chiv only happens, at the moment of einus, rather than retroactive. That's Rav Papa's chiddush. In all these cases, totally potter, because it's coming together with the chiv misa, which exempts it from all chiv mammon. A father left behind a parah, they can use it until the end of the term. If an einus occurs, they're potter. If they did tvicha mistakenly, they have to pay low value rate. What if the father left over nechasim, properties to back up his, to be applied to his obligations? So we have two versions of the Gemara. Either it obligates the nechasim in the case of the einus, which actually doesn't work like Rav Papa, because then it seems from here that indeed the chiyuv of einus is retroactive to when the father accepted it, or it's going only on the second case where they did the tvicha. In that case, since they damaged the parah, and there is nechasim from the father, they have to repay using the father's nechasim. Now, according to Shittas Rabbanan, when there's a chiyuv malchus and mammon, malchus overshadows the mammon, he gets lashed, no mammon. What if the masa that he did carries a potential malchus, but not in actuality, because he wasn't warned in this case? So Rabbi Yehuda says, he'll pay the mammon. We look at the practical aspect of things. Rish Lakish says, he's pater from mammon because, after all, this is a masa that identifies with malchus, and when there's malchus, there is no mammon. All the best to you, and much haslacha.